What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Stochastic DFS channel. And today we're talking preseason NFL DFS. It is week one. We have a 2-game slate on deck. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We also have a deal for you today, and this is in relation to preseason. So I want to talk about this right away in the beginning. We're going to talk about everything preseason here, but if you want the projections, if you want the depth charts to see for yourself, if you want premium Discord, if you want all the analysis, and this is going to change after this video, we have news all the time in preseason DFS. You can get all that constantly updating news, projections, everything if you click the link in the video description below, and you are going to get 25% off those preseason projections. Normally $19.95, I think pretty affordable to begin with, but you're getting an additional 25% off. It's just today. Only today, Thursday, August the 10th. So take advantage of that. Again, the link is in the video description below. You're not going to find a better deal out there. All right, we'll dive in. And unlike the showdown slate we had last week, I'm going to go position by position here. I think it just makes more sense with this functioning basically as normal NFL DFS outside of the salaries being all the same. But as usual with preseason DFS, we're trying to read the tea leaves and figure out who is going to play the most snaps. At quarterback, I think you have two good options. Number one, and the safest, I think, is Jaren Hall from Minnesota. Kirk Cousins is unlikely to see the field tonight. You have Nick Mullins as the backup. He's locked into that role. Then you have Jaren Hall, who's a fifth-round rookie out of BYU. This is a guy that has awesome mobility. He ran for over 300 yards in back-to-back seasons with BYU, and I think he's going to get a half here. So right away, he should be your safest option, but there's other good quarterback options as well. I think Holton Ahlers for Seattle is another decent option. This is a little harder to evaluate in Seattle because you might see three quarterbacks. Geno Smith did play 67 snaps in the preseason last year. What I'll say about that is you had an actual quarterback battle. Coming into the year, it wasn't certain that Geno Smith was going to beat out Drew Lock. So it's a bit of a different situation. I don't think Geno plays as much, if he plays at all. And then Lock is the locked-in backup. So you have a similar situation here with Holton Ahlers coming out of East Carolina. Another guy who's really mobile. He was a 4-year starter there. He rushed for almost 1,500 yards in his career. So he's another option, I think, with some upside, just not quite as safe as Jaren Hall because we don't know how much Geno Smith is going to play. From there, we have New England situation. I like Trace McSorley a lot. He'd be my QB3 here. Trace McSorley for New England. We've seen him play a bunch. Mac Jones didn't play in the preseason last year. He's not likely to play this year. Bailey Zappe's the locked-in backup. That should leave McSorley for quite a bit of room. But the only issue here is they took wide receiver Malik Cunningham and moved him back to quarterback this week. Malik Cunningham played quarterback at Louisville last year. And then he was brought into New England to play receiver, and he's played receiver through most of camp. But for whatever reason, they moved him back to quarterback early this week. So there's a little uncertainty there. Like, how much does he play? How much does he play at quarterback? That influences McSorley, and that's why he's 3 for me, behind Ahlers and Jaren Hall. But I still think he's firmly in play. Just to touch on Houston, this situation's kind of a mess. You have CJ Stroud, who's going to play. He could play somewhere between a few series and a quarter. We don't really know with Houston. So that kind of muddles the situation between Davis Mills and Case Keenum. I think they're all 3 GPP plays. At running back, there's 2 situations I think we really want to focus on, and then we'll talk about some GPP plays for the others. New England is number 1, and then Minnesota would be number 2 for me. You'll find New England's a pretty popular team today, as they should be. Ramondre Stevenson's not expected to get a lot of run. Ty Montgomery's been dealing with an injury. They only have 5 backs on the roster. That leaves 3 healthy backs for this game: Pierre Strong, Kevin Harris, and J.J. Taylor. Pierre Strong, according to beat reporters, has solidified himself as the second back behind Stevenson. He also didn't play as many snaps last preseason. With all of that said, we should be seeing Harris and J.J. Taylor getting more work. Harris was a 6th-round pick last year, carried 13 times in the preseason. I think he handles a lot of the early down work. J.J. Taylor, bit smaller, 5'6", 190. He had 14 carries last preseason. I think it's mostly split between these guys, with Harris getting a slight edge. So I guess we should just talk about Taylor here too. These are 2 of the top 4 backs in our preseason rankings. Right now, we have Harris 1, Taylor 4, but these are two awesome players to target for preseason DFS. Getting to that Minnesota situation, this is one that's similar, 5 active backs on the roster. Madison is not expected to play a lot here. Get the Dalvin Cook treatment, if you will, from last preseason. Kenny and Nwangwu missed practice on August 7th. Not sure if he'll play here. He's valuable special teams wise for this team, which leaves 3 backs. You have Ty Chandler, you have Dwayne McBride, and you have Abram Smith. Chandler has sort of carved out a role as that RB2, RB3, depending on how you want to rank Nwangwu and Chandler. And Dwayne McBride has been the clear 4. Abram Smith was signed on August 5th. He's just a warm body in camp, not expecting much run from Smith. Dwayne McBride is a player that they want to take a look at. They drafted him in the 7th round, and they want to see if he can push Chandler. So I think you're going to see a lot of Chandler and McBride tonight, with a slight preference to McBride being preseason week 1, and we're not expecting to see Cousins. Just to touch on the other situations briefly, if you're looking for some extra running backs, GPP-wise, I think Xavier Valade for Houston is where I would look there. It's a really tough situation in Houston. You got a lot of guys active. They're going to play Stroud, which makes me think you probably see some Pierce and Singletary. You've got a Wale and Boone. It's really crowded, but if I were to make a bet on anyone who leads Houston in carries, it would be Valade. For Seattle, it's similar. I think this is a little better than Houston. You're not going to see Walker or Kenny McIntosh. They do have Zach Charbonnet and DJ Dallas. I don't know how much those guys play. They're kind of locked into roles, and it's preseason week 1. But then you have SaRodorick Thompson, Brian Colback, and Wayne Talapapa. So it's still 5 healthy backs. If I were betting on one, it would be SaRodorick Thompson. But again, these are GPP plays. Focus your attention on Minnesota and New England. Getting to wide receiver, this is a pretty easy one to talk about. New England only has 6 receivers that are going to be not just active, but like contributors. They don't play their starters in the preseason really ever. So that means no Devontae Parker, no Kendrick Bourne likely, no Juju Smith-Schuster, and Matthew Slater is a preseason grinder, a special teams grinder. He doesn't play in the preseason. Like last year, that leaves 6 healthy receivers. I think you want to start with New England, and you want to play some combination, probably 2 of these 6 in small field, large field. You can get away from it. But Demario Douglas, 6th-round rookie out of Liberty, is having an excellent camp. He's number 1 for me. Kayshon Boutte is 2. He's a 6th-round pick out of LSU. He's having a strong camp as well. I think they're really going to evaluate those guys, see if they can't jump a guy like Tyquan Thornton, who I have number 3. He's having a bad camp, so it's the exact opposite. But this guy's a 2nd-round pick, unlike the former players who were 6th-round picks. Thornton's going to be evaluated here. And then you have the deep guys. Thyrick Pitts, he came out of Delaware. He's a 2023 UDFA. Trey Nixon, 7th-round pick in 2021. He played a ton last year and had a good preseason. Those are the guys you're looking at to kind of round this out. And the last one's Raleigh Webb. I'm playing New England guys, and a lot of them among the pass catchers. Second best team is Minnesota. They have 8 healthy bodies at receiver. Not expected to see much Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne. Don't think they play. But Addison will. He's a tricky evaluation because he's probably not going to play a lot of snaps. But a lot of times when you see high-profile rookies, when they're on the field, they're targeted on their plays. They want to see what they have, then get them off the field. So you could see 10 snaps for Addison and 4 targets, which puts him in play for GPPs. But I do think players like Jalen Reagor and Thayer Thomas are going to play more. You also have some injuries. No Jalen Naylor, no Tristan Jackson, no Lucky Jackson. So a guy like Thayer Thomas, he projects to play a decent amount here. UDFA out of NC State, slot receiver. Expecting him to play a lot with Jaron Hall, who's our favorite quarterback. Reagor, former 1st-round pick. He's yet to carve out a meaningful role. Think he's going to play a fair amount as well tonight. Just a back-of-the-roster guy. He'll compete largely with Blake Prell and Brandon Powell. That's a mouthful. Seattle's my number 3 option at wide receiver. Likely looking at players like Matt Landers. Again, you're not going to see DK Metcalf Lockett. You'll probably see similar treatment with Jackson Smith and Jigba to Jordan Addison. So expect limited snaps, but probably targeted on those. So GPPs, he's fine. But the 4 guys they're really evaluating in Seattle should be Matt Landers. He's a UDFA out of Arkansas, but this guy is pretty freaky, like 6'4", runs a 40 in the 4.3s. They should look at him. Cade Johnson from 2021, played 77 snaps last preseason. Beat reporters think he has a chance to make the roster. Same with Cody Thompson, 2019 UDFA. Think he has a chance to make the roster. And then Jake Bobo, UDFA out of UCLA. He's been working with Locke and Geno Smith. So these are the 4 they're really going to look at here in Seattle. For Houston, again, we're expecting to see starters, which clouds things. I mean, you might see like 13 receivers play tonight for Houston. The two guys I think they really want to evaluate are their rookies, Tank Dell and Xavier Hutchinson. I don't really like playing a lot of these guys, maybe mixing and matching because of how many receivers they're going to have. They project to have at least 12 healthy receivers out there, which far more than any other team. But if you're throwing a dart, that's where I'd look. Tight end is a mess, as it usually is. Couple options here. And what I would do if you're playing multiple lineups is just probably turn up your variance and play a lot of these guys because we don't have a clear one tonight. Colby Parkinson for Seattle. No offense, injured. Will Dissly didn't play last preseason week 1. Seattle should have 4 healthy tight ends. Parkinson played a ton last year. He's a receiving option, and the guy's massive. He's like 6'7", so he makes sense. Could fall into the end zone. Matt Sokol played a ton last year in the preseason for New England. Don't think we see much Hunter Henry or Mike Gesicki. I don't know. He's having a strong camp. They have more tight ends. If you're looking for someone behind him for GPPs, it'd be Scotty Washington on New England, but Sokol would be number 1. For Minnesota, I'm looking at Nick Muse. TJ Hawkinson's projected to miss this game. Josh Oliver, I think, has played himself into the tight end 2 role, so I don't think we see a ton of him. From there, Johnny Munt is a blocker. You've got Ben Sims and Colin Thompson behind him, but I think Muse projects for the most work. Houston has 5 tight ends. There's very little separating them. I'm not going to play a Houston tight end. So that's where we're at. Defense, very, very volatile. I'm mixing and matching. Probably, yeah, I'm not going to really make any rules for defense. If I had to break some ties, it's probably going to be Houston's defense. They're playing some starters tonight. They'd probably rank number 1, but ultimately I'm just going to try to spread myself pretty even across the defenses. But that'll do it for us today. Thank you guys for watching. Again, check out that deal, 25% off all of our preseason stuff right now. It's projections, Discord, our depth charts, which are pretty in-depth and constantly updating. They're updating throughout the day, right before kickoff. That's where you want to be. 25% off today only. Link in the video description below. Otherwise, my name is Matt Gajewski. You can follow me on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Good luck.